Hello, welcome to the most dangerous podcast. Tell me how you are, James.
Well, for the third time this evening, I'm not too bad. I've not done much this week because we're recording like earlier in the week this week, aren't we? Because there's lots
Yes.
coming up, which I'll go on to sort of discuss in a minute.
hmm
So I've not really done much between the last pod and this pod to kind of. I did join the Green Party.
Did you?
I did, yeah, just because I'm like quite political and I kind of like sort of like I'm quite into it. I mean,
Yeah.
did you see the Rishi Sunak interview earlier today by any chance?
No, I've had a busy day today.
Yeah, so yeah, we discussed off air. So it was quite funny because he was asked, like, what were the difficulties that you had whilst you were growing up? Like, is there anything specific that,
I
like,
think I've seen something about this though.
yeah, he probably did. It's been all over the news. I think it was in the front
Yeah.
of the Mirror today. Like, his thing was like, well, when I was growing up, I didn't have Sky TV,
Oh.
and it's like he went to like private school and stuff. So, so I mean, it's pissing me off already, this election bullshit. But
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I mean, it beats when I almost joined the Communist Party by mistake. So at least I joined like a sort of like legitimate party, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, the Greens will never get in. I understand that, but I do like their policies. And anyway, they don't shoot me down for that. But
I was looking at their policies a couple of days ago, and I thought, God, they'd actually be really good. And then I thought, but there's no point in me joining them and voting them because they'll never win. And then I thought, I wonder how many people think that. I
yeah,
wonder if
but
there's enough people think that if they all actually just made the move and did it, would they get in? And they don't need to necessarily get in, but if they got 30 seats, 40 seats, or something, people go, shit, I'm going to start
yeah,
taking
but
notice of these guys.
I do also think that like you can kind of put whatever the fuck you want in your manifesto if you know that you're not going to get in as well.
True, yeah.
You can kind of just go, we'll do this, we'll do that, I'll do. You know, I think if you're definitely getting in, if you're definitely
Yeah.
going to, if you're definitely red or blue, then you're definitely going to be one of the party that gets in. Then you have to be kind of a bit more kind of, oh well, we'll say we'll do this, but you know it's got to be within reason. But anyway, yeah. So not much has happened last week, but I'm really looking forward to the remaining days of this week actually,
Yeah.
because there's a lot going on. So tomorrow night I'm going to go and see the Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer. They're playing the same game in the Co-op Arena in Manchester. You know, the one that's like completely like just didn't open for ages, even though it was supposed to.
Things were falling off the ceiling, weren't they?
Yeah, Yeah, so I'm a bit concerned about that, but yeah, that should be pretty good. And then obviously Friday, what day that's going to be? Scotland versus Germany.
Yeah, yeah.
In the European Cup or the European Championship, and then obviously then from then on, we've got a weekend full of football, which ends with England on Sunday night. I mean, I know you're not too fussed about England, but I mean, I'm half English, so kind of, you know, I do follow them. I do keep the eye on them. I'm not a huge England fan, I must confess, but you know, it's coming home and all that.
I've had the argument quite a few times. People are like, you should support England. And I say, but I don't support England because I'm from Scotland. My family are all from Scotland, so I support Scotland. Oh, why do you hate England? I don't hate England, I just don't support them. The same way I don't support France and I don't support Poland. But I've got an English wife and I've got, you know, in my household 5 English kids. So I've started to warm to the idea that I think it would be all right if they did well, you know. But at the same time, I'm indifferent to them. It's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, going back to politics, this kind of sort of it blends into sort of the two themes that we've just discussed there. Do you know Stephen Flynn for the SNP?
Yeah.
Like, he is one of the best politicians I've ever seen in my life. He's just like oozes charisma, right? No, he's fantastic. I think he's brilliant. I love listening to him. He's great. And he did an interview with I think it was like ITN News or something like that.
Yeah.
And like one of the like final questions, they have like a fun question at the end. And you know, it's like daft fun. And then like the presenter was like, "Oh, so you know, if Scotland get knocked out and England gets the final, would you be supporting England?" He's like, "Well, no." Like, what a silly question! Like, no, because I'm Scottish. Like, you know, I support Scotland, not England. It's like saying to like a Spanish person, you know, like if Spain get knocked out and France gets to the end, would you support France? It's like,
yeah,
well no. Like, why would you? Yeah. So anyway,
but at the same time, I don't actively sit going, "Oh God, I hope they get beat." I'm indifferent.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Yeah.
I think you know, I live in England. It'd be wonderful. It'd be a great atmosphere in the country if they won.
And we might even get a bank holiday if they win. So.
Maybe, yeah. So no, but you're normally the one that's knackered. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm absolutely exhausted tonight because my adorable wife, and she definitely deserves it because she works really, really hard. I'm trying to be nice here. Has gone away Monday to Friday to Mallorca with 5 of her friends and left me with the 5 kids.
Oh yeah, she phoned. Has she called?
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot off her actually. To be fair, by last night she was like, "I just want to come home," because neither of us are actually used to really being away because we never do it, and that's one of the reasons I talked her into it. I said, "Just go and enjoy yourself for 4 nights."
But yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's like that's the thing, isn't it? I think when you're in like a proper relationship, like we are, I guess, it's just the trust thing, isn't it? You just don't do what you want, like. Whatever.
I've never doubted her, to be honest.
That's not what I meant at all. I mean, just mean like you know that there's no issue or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm a bit tired. So we've got a podcast to do, and we're going to do a good one tonight. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, like I say, it's been a very few days since the last one we did. So the news that I've got coming up is
okay.
Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, I've not done too much on it, but anyway, that we just wing it on this podcast, don't we? I think people just like to hear us talk. It's comforting. A friend of mine said I put it on at bed so I can go to sleep with it on. I mean, I don't know if that's like a compliment or.
Have they got past the first 5 minutes? Or... but first of all, right, we've been doing the socials, okay? And we've had some nice emails in from people that have told us a couple of stories. We haven't this week. We haven't had an email. So we've not got... But I've got a little story I want to tell you. Very short story that I found. So first of all, the socials. Please follow us, share us, do what you can. Automatically download us so that wherever you are, if you've got no internet, you know that our episodes have already automatically downloaded. You can do that on Spotify and Apple and all the other good podcast providers.
Yeah, give us a review.
Yes, yeah.
5 stars, 4 stars max. Anything less than that, don't bother.
I know, yeah. Just would rather you didn't. Facebook's grown. It's grown another 20 odd followers this week.
Really? So what's that now? 23?
Yeah. People are definitely joining in. And we do. I mean, we get the odd email, but it was just crap this week. Nothing decent. Nothing to read out.
Need to try harder, folks.
So I have to put this dog out. It's doing my head in. Hang on.
Every week. I think that should be a feature.
Yeah.
Get out.
So, James, this week, I'll be honest, I've actually really struggled to find a subject for the podcast this week. And again, with having a couple of days less to prepare, I went for one that I've actually had sort of in the background for a while. But whilst I was looking for something, I came across this story about this Japanese man that I wanted to tell you. A man called Tsutomu Yamaguchi. Okay, so you ready?
Go on.
There was this is a true story, by the way. There was a Japanese man called Tsutomu Yamaguchi who was on his way to work in Hiroshima in 1945.
Oh no.
Yeah, bad place to be knocking about in 1945. When he saw falling through the sky 2 miles from where he stood what ultimately turned out to be the atomic bomb. He had just enough time to take cover in a ditch as the bomb detonated, and miraculously, he survived.
Wow.
Somehow, the Hiroshima train station was still operational, and so Yamaguchi, battered, bombed, and bruised, decided to board a train to his family home so he could recover in Nagasaki. 3 days. Yeah. 3 days later, Yamaguchi was called into work to explain what he saw, which he did. At work, as he began to tell the story of what happened, the second bomb dropped. It was the reinforced concrete walls around him that saved him this time, and Yamaguchi quickly ran to find his wife and son. Ground temperatures in the city reached 4,000 degrees centigrade, and radioactive rain poured down. The family's home was destroyed, but Yamaguchi's wife and son had thankfully been out shopping, looking for burn ointment for Yamaguchi, when the bomb fell and they survived. Despite this ordeal of having survived 2 nuclear explosions and subsequent radiation exposure, Yamaguchi went on to live to 93 years of age. He
Incredible.
died in 2010 after being recognized by the Japanese government as Nijuyu Habakashuya, or the twice-bombed person.
Wow, that's incredible.
What a story.
What a story, yeah. What, like, kind of unlucky, but then
Yeah.
did lead like a long, healthy life after that. So fair play, but
the bit that got me is like his wife and kid survived the second bomb because they'd left the house to go and get burn ointment to treat him from the first bomb.
treat him, yeah. It's just like this sort of like
mental.
These coincidences that just sort of like led to this. I watched a decent film actually, which it's kind of, I don't know, relevant. Godzilla.
Oh, right.
Godzilla -1. So it's a Japanese film.
Yeah.
And whilst I was watching it, I did get the feel of kind of it was a sort of metaphor for the sort of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. Like, this beast comes out of the sea and it's nuclear. Mm-hmm. But it's really good. Like, actually, it's a really good film. I highly recommend it.
Is it modern film or old film?
Yeah, it came out this year, I think.
Oh, right.
Earlier in the year, but it's subtitled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's not like one of the old ones where Godzilla looks like that guy in the Chewits adverts. Remember him?
The Godzilla does look a bit like that.
Yeah,
but I think that's just the design. But yeah, so like this guy goes to war. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, check that out. I think it might be on Netflix. But yeah,
okay.
it's I thought it was a metaphor for that time.
Right,
that horrific kind of thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, have a look at that if you want, or don't.
Fantastic. So you mentioned your dangerous news earlier.
Yes, it's time for that. Is it? It's this week's dangerous news. So, as I mentioned, this week it's a quick fire round because it's only been a couple of days or a few days since we did the last one. The first, these both come from the Metro. I think, I can't remember. I didn't note it down.
Okay.
So this one, the first one, a man coughed and sneezed at the same time, causing his colon to fall out of his body whilst having breakfast at a US diner.
It's not funny, but it is.
So the 63-year-old...
Oh, come on.
The 63-year-old who was with his wife in a Florida restaurant felt a wet sensation and followed by a sharp pain.
Shit.
He lifted up his shirt and spotted several inches of his colon pointing out of a surgical wound. So the man had recently had abdominal surgery. I think he'd had some sort of cancer. And he'd been sort of taken the cancer out, stitched him up, and the doctors said that the incision had healed well.
Right.
And then he'd gone to the diner and sneezed and coughed, and everything came out. An ambulance was called on arrival. Paramedics observed a 3-inch opening with large amounts of bowel protruding through.
Dear God.
Fortunately, there was minimal blood loss and no damage to the exposed organ. He was taken to hospital and surgeons managed to put his bowel back into his abdomen. After 6 days in hospital, he was able to return home and reportedly recovered without complications.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, don't sneeze and cough at the same time. It could cause sincere damage.
It's not... I feel bad that I laughed if he's had like cancer surgery or something, but
it's just...
It's more like as soon as you said it, I started to picture the thing happening. Like, what did that even look like? But anyway, poor guy.
He's better now. It's fine. We can laugh at him now because he's all right. If he died, then maybe.
Yeah, you can laugh because he's okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's not laughing.
Yeah, well, get well. He's okay, but still get well soon.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, like I say, quick fire round. Second story. Searchers looking for a missing woman in Indonesia were horrified when she was found eaten alive by a giant snake.
Dear God.
So mum of 4, Farida, whose surname hasn't been made public, disappeared while walking to a local market in Kalimpang, Indonesia on Thursday. So that must be Thursday last week.
Yeah.
Her husband, Noni, raised the alarm when she didn't return home that evening and launched a search party alongside the locals. The parties found a 20-foot-long python in the undergrowth on the Friday with a huge bulge in its stomach. It's almost like this. It's almost like the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just you're making cough and sneeze. Just thinks you'd like pop out.
Yeah. I'm just picturing a cartoon with this like perfect like woman shape inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So fearing the worst, they cut open the reptile's stomach with a machete, and Faraday was found in the snake's gut. It appeared that the python had bitten a leg before coiling round her, suffocating her and swallowing her head first.
Yeah.
Graphic pictures and videos show Faraday's body as she's removed from the snake, and then is taken to be prepared for a religious burial.
Definitely be Googling that later.
Yeah, it might be something for the Facebook page if that's allowed. Probably not. Noni said, "I am forever sorry that I let my wife go alone. If I had been with her that day, the snake would not have dared touch her." Okay, yard.
Fuck off, snake.
Like using some snake charmer. I feel sorry for the suffering she went through. I am sorry for our family.
See, I'm, as we know, an animal person. I feel sorry for the snake. I mean, they might as well let it finish her. So killing it and cutting it open and pulling her out.
The deed's been done, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. Why
it's
kill
not
a snake?
much you can do to it now. Like, yeah.
It's not like it's been naughty. I mean, it's just that's what it does.
Yeah, snakes just eat things, don't they? It goes on to say, yada yada yada. It is an unusual thing, but it does happen from time to time. The last documented case of a human being eaten by a python, was in 2002, so only 2 years ago, and this was also in Indonesia.
Right.
So
Must get big pythons there.
I think you do. I've seen some pictures.
Yeah.
Not just of this, but
I'm just Googling it now. Ugh. Oh, it's blurred it out.
Yeah. You'll have to go on the dark web.
Yeah. I don't know if I can get that on my internet here because of all the kids.
Maury can.
Maury will be well into that, yeah.
So that's pretty much it. Sorry, short and sweet this week, but that's this week's Dangerous News.
Thanks very much, James.
Okay then, Fraser. So this is your week to present your dangerous story, dangerous thing, whatever we do these days.
Who knows?
Who knows? So what have you got for us?
Right, James. You last week you started with a question. I'm going to start with a question to you. What do you know about cults?
Cults? A little bit, not like a great deal. I know that, I suppose, usually there's a leader, usually there's loads of people, and usually it goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, that's quite a common theme. Yeah. So the official definition, a cult is a social group characterized by its members' strong devotion to a particular set of beliefs, practices, or a charismatic leader, often diverging significantly from mainstream social norms. Cults frequently employ manipulative and coercive techniques to maintain control over its members, create an environment of exclusivity and intense loyalty. So there you go. That's what a cult is.
Okay. If there was a bit of a click there, that was me just putting my headphones in properly.
Is that why they weren't working?
That's why they weren't working.
I'm leaving that in. That's how professional we are. So that's the definition of a cult, and I always wondered what defines a cult from a religion, because there's quite a few religions that are quite cult-like, and I don't want to start getting myself in trouble with people, but a lot of people would see the likes of Scientology as a cult.
Well, I think we could perhaps talk about this later down the line,
Hmm.
because I would argue that religion is very cultish.
Okay, so we'll debate that towards the end then.
I think the structure, as you discussed
Hmm.
before, I think the best way to do this is you tell me about what you've discovered, and then
Hmm.
we could do the
So,
thing.
well, what I want to do is I've picked three cults, three very well-known cults, and I'm going to read you basically the three stories summarizing the cults and what happened within them. So,
Good.
you
All
ready?
right.
Comfortable?
Yeah, always.
Okay, here we go. So the first one is it was known as the People's Temple, very very famous cult, Jim Jones. Anyone that's into that sort of stuff obviously knows this one.
Is this the Jonestown massacre?
Jonestown, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Interesting that you called it a massacre.
That's pretty much what it was. I think.
Pretty much what it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll
So,
come to discover.
yep. Uh, Imagine a place where the promise of a utopian society lures people from all walks of life, where the vision of equality and social justice captivates hearts and minds. This was the People's Temple, a seemingly benevolent organisation founded by Jim Jones in the 1950s. But beneath its surface of goodwill lay a chilling reality that culminated in one of the most tragic events in modern history. The People's Temple began with noble intentions. Jim Jones, a charismatic preacher, drew people in with his fervent calls for racial equality, social justice, and community support. His sermons resonated in an era fraught with civil rights and struggles and social upheaval. Followers believed they had found a sanctuary, a place where the colour of their skin or their socio-economic status didn't matter. As the movement grew, Jones relocated his congregation to California, promising a haven free from the corruption and inequality of mainstream society.
Mm.
In San Francisco, it all sounds really good, you know.
Well, it does, yeah. But I mean, there's a few red flags, isn't there? Like,
Yeah,
anyway, carry on.
In San Francisco, the People's Temple gained political influence and respect, even engaging in charitable works that further solidified their reputation. But the facade was facade.
Facade, I'd say, but facades, whatever.
But the facade was beginning to crack. That sounds better. Jim Jones's grip on his followers tightened, allegations of abuse, financial exploitation, and coerced loyalty emerged. Members were subjected to public humiliations and harsh punishments. Jones preached of apocalyptic visions using fear to control and manipulate. Critics and defectors were silenced, often through intimidation and threats. In 1977, amidst increasing scrutiny and negative press, Jones moved his congregation to a remote settlement in Guyana, South America, calling it Jonestown. It's very up himself, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it?
I know.
Go on.
He promised a very socialist to call it after himself, you know. Our town. He promised a socialist paradise, a self-sufficient community free from the oppression of the outside world, but Jonestown quickly became a prison rather than a paradise. Passports were confiscated, armed guards patrolled, and communication with the outside world was monitored. The conditions in Jonestown were harsh. Food shortages, overwork, and Jones's erratic behaviour took a toll on the residents. He fueled a sense of paranoia, convincing followers that enemies were conspiring against them. Loyalty was tested through forced rehearsals of mass suicide, which Jones called white nights. Imagine rehearsing your mass suicide.
Yeah.
You'll just lie down for a bit.
Pretend you're dead.
Yeah. The breaking point came in November 1978 when Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown to investigate reports of abuse. Some residents expressed a desire to leave with Ryan, but as they attempted to depart, Jones's loyalists attacked them at the airstrip, killing Ryan and several others. In the chaos that followed, Jones ordered his followers to drink a cyanide-laced concoction, an act he framed as revolutionary suicide. Over 900 people, including children, died that day. Jonestown became synonymous with blind obedience and the terrifying power of a charismatic leader.
Yeah, there's actually I'm sure there's a huge documentary on this. We're talking
Yes,
sort of
yeah.
six episodes or 9 episodes, and they have actual recordings um, of that moment where they commit suicide, and it's literally parents feeding their children, this. Uh, what's that drink they have in like
Kool-Aid it was.
Kool-Aid?
Kool-Aid, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And they're telling their children it's like Kool-Aid and just drink
Yeah.
it and stuff, and it's horrendous. And like, I think we'll find as the journey goes on that there does seem to be this common theme of like these individuals who they maybe they do start off with good intentions. I mean, I
Mhm.
love the idea of this sort of like socialist community who live off the land and are
Yeah.
self-sufficient. I'd love to go and live on that farm. It'd be great. But there's always this one guy who's at the top who goes, "Do you know what?" And he's fucking raking it in as well. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he's like absolutely minted. Everyone else is like living off the beets and the beans and all that. And like this guy's sitting on a big pile of money, and then
Hmm.
it seems to be a comment, and then they get investigated, and then it just all goes to shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure I watched something on that a long time ago. But
Those
it's very disturbing.
those tapes, I one day driving through to Wilmslow, my 45-minute drive to work, I sat and listened to the whole tape of just him on like a megaphone going, "Just drink it down, you'll be with God soon, don't you worry." And there's like, you can hear children crying and
Yeah,
people
but
wailing, and it's awful. It's
he
just
didn't die
awful.
though, did he?
He shot himself in the end.
In the right,
Yeah.
okay.
He watched them all die and then put a bullet through his head.
Yeah, it's just
And
it's always this. That's the thing with these cult things. Like
yeah.
like I said, it starts with good intentions,
Hmm.
and I'm sure like back in the day, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I don't want
Yeah.
to sort of like give this guy any credit. Like I'm sure but I'd hope at one point he was like, right, okay, the world is a really, really shit place.
Hmm.
I've got a better idea. Why don't we do this? If someone said that to me, and well, it's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
all right, that sounds cool. But then 5 years later, you're all sat there in a church hall going, don't know if I
Actually,
should
this is shit. I want to go to Walmart and buy some food. Right, we'll move on because we'll debate all of that.
Yeah, we'll park that
There's
one for now.
yeah, there's a lot to debate. I love that you said the massacre. I will go back to that. So the second one we want to talk about is one called Heaven's Gate. You ready?
Yeah, I've heard about this one as well. And they're all crazies in this. Oh,
Oh, they are. Yeah. Heaven's Gate was founded in the early 1970s by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, an unlikely pair who combined Christian.
immediately tell by the names they're just not normal
Yeah,
people.
Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles.
Bonnie Nettles. Fuck it off.
An unlikely pair who combined Christianity, New Age spirituality, and science fiction. Fiction. They're basing a religion on fiction.
Science. Yeah. Like the Matrix. Like,
Yeah,
people do that, they do.
I know. They taught their followers that they were chosen to ascend to a higher level of existence by shedding their human bodies and boarding a spaceship. That doesn't sound good. Shed your body. This transcendence they believed would free them from the suffering and corruption of Earth. For over 2 decades, the group lived in relative obscurity, practicing a strict lifestyle, including a vegan diet, communal living, and celibacy. That's another thing. There's like, you've all to be celibate, but I'm gonna
Come into my chamber.
I read quite a few cults this week, and there's sex
Yeah.
usually comes up at some stage. Applewhite, referred to as Doe, maintained absolute control over the group, dictating every aspect of their lives. Their beliefs, spread through the early internet forums, gradually attracted more followers. I've been on the internet. Heaven's Gate still has a website.
It still exists, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say. Yeah, it's still a thing.
That means I'm going to get like a poison dart through my letterbox or something.
So just sat here right now.
Yeah. I'll be one of those guys that wakes up on an island with people that know stuff, you know.
I don't know. What's that? Is that a conspiracy?
Oh, I don't know. In 1997, Heaven's Gate made headlines worldwide. The group became convinced that a spaceship was trailing the Hale-Bopp comet, visible from Earth at the time. Applewhite declared that this was their signal to ascend. On March the 26th, 1997, 39 members, including Applewhite, were found dead in a mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. The details of the mass suicide were meticulously planned and executed. Members dressed identically in black shirts and sweatpants with new Nike sneakers and armbands reading Heaven's Gate Away Team.
Away team.
Heaven's Gate Away!
Okay. That's in like you got a home team and an away team.
Maybe, yeah, the home team were wearing white.
They were alright, they didn't have to kill themselves. The away team are away, aren't they?
Yeah, they lost. Or did they win? I don't know. They believed that by leaving their physical bodies behind, their souls would be transported to the spaceship trailing the comet. The group ingested a lethal mixture of phenobarbital and alcohol consumed with applesauce or pudding to mask the bitter taste. This was done in shifts over several days. As each wave of members took the poison, those who remained helped the dying by placing plastic bags over their head to ensure asphyxiation. Poison wasn't really necessary.
Yeah, I'll help you, mate.
Once deceased, the bodies were carefully laid out in their beds covered with a purple shroud. The precision of this process reflected the group's unwavering belief in their mission. Applewhite was amongst the last to die, his closest followers ensuring that the leader's departure was in accordance with their ritual. The serene, almost peaceful scene of their deaths stood in stark contrast to the horrific reality of mass suicide driven by delusional beliefs.
It's just the brass balls on these people, though. Like, it's like this is my thing. This is what I believe. Like, you've got to be like proper, like I don't know, so charismatic to make people believe shit like this. Like, you know, this is like off the scale, random madness. Like, see that comet up there? You know, in like the tail bit, there's a spaceship in there.
It's mental, absolutely mental, isn't it?
Like, I don't know. Like, you know, like people get conned on the internet and stuff, don't they? Like, and I always think, oh, that's daft. You know, you see these like stories, like the BBC News, and like some old like lovely lady in the 60s or 70s or whatever, like thought she was going to cop off with like some Turkish bloke who's like multi-millionaire Turkish bloke. Oh. And you read it and you think, you're so daft. Like, how could you not see like that wasn't going to happen?
Yeah.
But it does happen. Like, you know, and that's a similar sort of thing to this. Like, how can these people not sit there and go, bit mad, this, isn't it? Like, it's a bit crazy.
It's sometimes, and again, we'll go on to this at the end, but you can you make yourself believe something's real because you want it to be, and at first you know it's not real, but you kind of wish it was real, and it's almost like you start tricking your own mind. And it's a little bit like I've spoken to certain people that have been in even like, you know, domestic abuse relationships and stuff, and they go, you don't actually know that you were being abused until you come out of it.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a good analogy, I suppose. There was one like recently where like this lady thought she was talking to Gary Barlow, and it's like some bloke from like, Taiwan, and you're like, mate, come on.
I'd rather talk to the guy from Taiwan.
You know, like Gary Barlow's like direct messenger on Facebook and that. And you're like, he's not. Like, why would he? Like, I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but I'm sure he gets loads of. Anyway, I don't know. I don't want to like take the piss out of these people. I think it's unfortunate, and the same with these. You know, this is completely departed from these people who like killed themselves and stuff in these cults. Like, this is another thing, but it's a similar sort of concept where you just like, you're so engulfed in this thing, like, you know.
My auntie Julie, you know well, quite a clever person, quite a sharp person. She got diddled on the internet by someone, and she's like, as soon as it happened, she looked back and she's like, how stupid could I have been?
Yeah,
and it's sometimes fast talking, someone that uses big, complicated words. It was someone that said she had a virus on her computer, and she gave them access to her computer to then start clicking on things. And
right.
But she realised at that point this wasn't right, and she just literally pulled the plug.
Have you ever had that email where someone emails you and says like, "Oh, we've seen you watching porn."
No,
And,
actually.
right, I've had this. Like, I've seen you watching porn,
Hmm.
and if you don't send us $500, I'm going to release the video of you watching porn to all your contacts on your email.
Right.
And I'm just like,
Do it.
go on then. Sure, they'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Like what's the, at first it's been like, oh shit. Then I'm like, so what?
I know.
They can all have a go if they like.
I constantly get I've sent them to you. Your Facebook page is going to be deleted tomorrow because of a copyright image, and I've learned that "fuck off" is the best thing to send back to that. They stop messaging.
But then like you get people. I mean, particularly like I don't know if I was like 16 or
Mhm.
like if we discussed before and like this. Like I'm 40 odd. I don't give a shit. So
I know.
someone wants to watch me watching porn. Fucking go for it. Go for their lives. If I was like 16 or whatever, then yeah, maybe I'd probably shit my pants a little bit and go, oh no,
Yeah,
like,
true.
and like all my contacts in my email are like, don't know, like my boss and that. So like, who cares? Like, so it's just like, yeah, I kind of get it how like people will probably fall into that.
Aye. Right, we've fallen well off track now.
Oh yeah, okay.
The last cult is one that's quite different to most of the cults. Very, very famous cult though. The Manson family cult.
Oh yeah, it's very famous, this one.
Yes. So the Manson family cult, led by the charismatic and manipulative Charles Manson, this group became synonymous with violence, chaos, and the dark side of the 1960s counterculture. Charles Manson, a career criminal with a troubled past, emerged in the late 1960s as a guru-like figure in the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. He attracted a group of young, impressionable followers, mostly women, who were disillusioned with society and seeking a sense of belonging. Manson offered them a vision of an idyllic communal lifestyle, but beneath this veneer lay a doctrine of hatred and apocalyptic prophecy. Manson preached about an impending race war which he called Helter Skelter, a term he borrowed from a Beatles song. He claimed that this conflict would result in the annihilation of the white population, after which he and his followers would emerge from hiding to rule the world. To trigger this cataclysmic event, Manson believed he needed to commit a series of murders that would be blamed on African Americans, thereby inciting the racial violence he prophesied. In August 1969, Manson orchestrated a series of brutal killings that shocked the nation. On the nights of August the 8th and 9th, his followers, under his direction, murdered 7 people, including the actress Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant. The scenes of these crimes are horrifying, with the word pig scrawled in blood on the walls amplifying the terror. The Manson family's reign of terror came to an end with their arrests in the following months. During the highly publicised trial, Manson's eerie influence over his followers was laid bare. They remained fiercely loyal to him, even carving X's into their foreheads in solidarity. Manson's bizarre behaviour and chilling proclamations in the courtroom cemented his image as a symbol of evil. Charles Manson and several of his followers were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. So that's the Manson family cult.
Yeah, I know that one. There's a film about that one as well.
Yeah.
Was it an actress they killed? They broke into a home, didn't they? And it's like
It was
a
Roman
Hollywood home.
Polanski's wife.
That's right. Yeah, they broke into.
She was Sharon Tate. She was an actress, but she was married. I'm sure she was married to Roman Polanski,
Right.
the director.
Did he get the death sentence? Do you know?
He didn't know he died. He died in
No,
prison.
right.
He died like 10 years ago or something. I'm sure.
Yeah. I thought he was executed, but yeah,
that
was like brutal though. That was just really,
yeah.
like the first two cults that you spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
That was a collective mass suicide thing.
Yeah.
Whereas that one was they were like proactively looking to kind of what's the word? Well, the phrase, like they proactively went out to that's more sort of revolutionary, if you like.
Yeah. The reason I included that is, to me, it stands. When I read quite a lot of cults, the Manson thing sort of stands slightly to the side of cults, where I think, was this just a guy that was basically like a kind of serial killer but wanting to do it with some mates, as opposed to, it wasn't like a religious
Yeah.
cult or going to another plane or anything. It was like you said, it was almost like just want to cause chaos and
That's it. Yeah, that's what it
fear
feels
and
like. It feels like it was more like that
yeah,
than like this guy. Okay, he may have had strong religious political beliefs,
hmm
um, but then they were kind of a means to an end to try and just commit like crimes, if you like.
yeah,
Whereas the others, they do, as crazy as it sounds, do sound do seem sort of genuine.
yeah,
That
yeah.
maybe not the Jonestown one. I don't know. Like I don't know. It's kind of a bit weird. Like I do kind of get it a little bit. Like it's easy to get swept up in something,
Yeah.
particularly if when a lot of people are doing it. I know I just said that it's. I think it's crazy how people or individuals get coerced into doing sort of
hmm
crazy things. When everyone's doing it, there's you get like the FOMO thing where you kind of like,
That's it. Yeah.
oh, like well, he's doing it, and that sounds pretty
Mhm.
cool. Like I wouldn't mind living on a farm in the middle of Guatemala or whatever the hell, Honduras or wherever the hell I went, or shit like that. And it's kind of a
Yeah.
bit like, yeah, that sounds like pretty cool to me. I mean, to be honest, it sounds pretty cool to me right now. If I'm honest, I wouldn't mind going to live on a farm somewhere with loads of people and
Yeah.
and living off the land and stuff. But then if that like the head guy turned around and said, right,
hmm
we're all going to shoot ourselves this morning, you'd be a bit like, nah, I didn't really sign up for this. Like, but
But
then you're so
interestingly,
far into it, and then your
yeah.
neighbour's going, well, yeah, I'm up for that, and then your neighbour on the left's going, yeah, I'm up for that as well. You start going, well, yeah, that's all
Yeah.
right then.
See, my auntie Julie, the lady I mentioned just 5 minutes ago, she said to me, several times in the last couple of years, particularly since COVID and all the recession, and she said, "Do you know what? We should all just buy an island in Scotland, just to all the family. We could just go up there. We could just live off the land and stuff like that." And you go, "God, that sounds really good." And you think, but that's what a lot of these cult leaders are promising.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
go and
that's it, exactly.
get a bit of land, live off the land, live in this wonderful society. And like you said, it does sound good. And I always wonder, cult leaders, at first, I always think, do they do it? They do it for the money because it's, just sign your house over to me and then join the cult and you can live in these bunk beds in this dormitory. But then quite often the cult leaders join in the suicide towards the end. And you think, right, okay, so why did they do it? Because it wasn't for the money. It must have been for the power. And do they often get to the point where it's about the power of controlling all these people, but it always gets to a point where they start to lose control, and the only way out is suicide? Is there like a
Yeah, potentially. Like I don't know. Like I mean, I joked at the beginning of the episode, like how I almost by accident joined the Communist Party and stuff like that, and
yeah?
because that's an ideology and that's almost sort of cultish, if you like. The idea that
hmm
everybody's equal, the idea that nobody has to work. Well, people have to work, obviously, but everybody has
yeah?
this equality across. But that the idea of that is impossible because there
hmm
always has to be someone at the top. Like even if you go through the animal kingdom, if you like, and I'm just ad
Yeah,
libbing here, like sorry, there always has to be some sort of hierarchy. Whereas
yeah,
someone's there going, right, well, you do this, you do that, you do this. And it scales all the way down to the very bottom to
hmm
there's someone at the bottom going, oh, fucking hell, all right, I'll clean the toilets then. As a species that we are,
hmm
there's no way that you can have that equality. There's no way that everybody can go and live on a farm, you know, and we all just work to what we need. And, you know, I grow potatoes, you grow carrots. At the end of the day, we'll
yeah,
trade what we've got because there has to be someone at the top going, well, hang on, you only give him 7 carrots and you give him 8 potatoes. That's not fair, is it? So
hmm
this cult thing, this idea of this, particularly like the various cults that we've spoken about, maybe not the Manson one, but the two previous, promise this equality thing, which I
Mhm.
think a lot of people desire, because at this moment in time, and I imagine life hasn't changed that much in the past 50, 60 years, there's a deep-rooted inequality in
Mhm.
society. And what everyone desires really is that, well, I don't think that that rich person should have all that stuff, and I think that poor person should have a bit more. But in reality, that's impossible. I
Mhm.
don't mean the scale of sort of wealth in the sense. What I mean is in the sense that there always has to be somebody there at the top, or a group of people to go, well, no, we need to manage this as well. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be some sort of management sort of umbrella over the top of it.
Mhm.
And I guess that when you're looking at the Jonestown and the space one that you were talking about, I think the ideology was, let's have this equality thing. You know, that's
Mhm.
great. But when it come to actually got so big that it got to the point where, yeah, we're all equal, the realization kicked in. Well, actually, no, there does need to be this kind of overall umbrella management of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think it's. I think, I mean, a cult, I suppose, is a political ideology to a degree,
Mhm.
right? And I think I'm waffling on. I understand that, and unless somebody comes up far smarter than us, comes up with this ideology in the way that society works, where everybody can be equal, then you'll just
Mhm.
continue to get these cults who think they'll break away from the norm and go, actually, I think it can be like this, or
Yeah.
I think it can be like that, and ultimately, generally speaking, it's not these sort of like professors from Harvard or
Mhm.
Oxford or Cambridge. It's just people who are like probably very, very clever people who just come out of the woodwork and go, I've got an idea. Why don't we give it a go? And then it gets too
Yeah.
far and they go, oh, fucking hell, that didn't work, did it?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. First of all, I think my dad would have been a wonderful cult leader. He'd have been great at convincing people, things like that. And it's the human nature. It's the same reason you buy a lottery ticket, isn't it? It's the promise of
The hope.
the hope. Yeah, that's the right hope of a better life,
It's the
hope
hope
of a
that
better
kills you.
future. Yeah, but I've always thought that, and I know that you can't generalize, but if you took, say, everyone in the UK and you took all their money off them and you spread it all out evenly, so everyone had, I don't know, £100,000. A lot of the people that were rich would get rich again, and a lot of people that were poor would get poor again, because the everyone's different. And like you said, there's people that need to be led, there's people that want to lead, there's people that know how to trade, there's people that don't, there's people, everyone's different. Every human nature is completely different.
I
No.
agree with part of that. I don't agree
Mhm.
with the sense that everyone, the rich people would stay rich and the poor people would stay poor. I think there's so many variations there. There's
I
many,
know good fortune comes into it because
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people, but
And I don't think anybody's really asking for that. Like, I think
Mhm.
all all anybody ever wants, right?
Mhm.
All I want anyway. I'm pretty. I think I'm pretty sort of like level-headed.
Mhm.
It's just an element of fairness.
Yeah.
I go to work pretty much every day. Not so much at the moment because obviously we discussed in previous episodes. Pay my taxes. Don't mind paying taxes and all that. I
Mhm.
think it's worth it. But if I pay my, this social contract thing where if I pay my money in, then I want to go and see a doctor if I need a doctor. If I need an
Yeah.
operation, I want an operation because I put my money in.
Mhm.
And I want poor people to be looked after. If they're struggling.
Yeah.
And I don't want rich people to be flying around in jets all the time just because they've got loads of money and they can. And that's what a cult is, I suppose. It's a promise of
Mhm.
just something different, just
Yeah.
something that for in our entire lifetimes, all we've known is inequality. I think
Mhm.
we've had to work hard. The pair of us have had to work hard. We've had trials and tribulations,
Plenty.
ongoing,
Yeah.
forever, and what do we get at the end of it? We have to inheritance tax and we have to pay about 4 grand for a funeral. So, and it's just mad. Yeah, I completely understand why people would go down this route and go, do you know what?
Yeah.
I want to go and live in a mountain somewhere. And then I kind of understand why the people at the top running these cults kind of go, this has gone too fucking far now. Don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand the sort of mass suicide thing.
Yeah. See, when I kept mentioning when you said a massacre, now effectively it was a suicide. It was a mass suicide, but it wasn't really. It was a massacre because
He
he,
directed them, like,
yeah, he
told them what
brainwashed them
to do.
into it.
Yeah.
So if I started phoning you every night saying, "Listen, James, your life's shit. I think you should kill yourself," for weeks on end, and eventually you killed yourself, you'll have done that because I talked you
Yeah,
into it.
it's manslaughter. It's manslaughter, isn't it?
I've killed you. That's not, it's not you making your own choice.
Mm.
And he's brainwashed them to do it. So it was a massacre. It was definitely a massacre. It wasn't a suicide because none of those people would have been in that position if he hadn't have brainwashed them to be in that position.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say that. Imagine if he just turned around and said, you know what? In fact, did he? I can't remember the tapes now. Did he say, look, those of you who want to leave can leave?
No, they were, from what I remember, the ones trying to leave were getting shot.
Yeah, okay. So
They had armed guards around the
I was going to say that.
circumference.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So they're like, you can leave if you want, but there was armed guards at the door. So it's like, well,
Yeah,
you can't really, can you?
that's it. He was telling them they could leave, but any that tried to got shot.
Yeah. So basically,
So
it's a
you
mass
could leave if you're fucking quick. Zigzag, always zigzag. Never run in a
quicker as
straight
a
line.
bullet. Bloody hell.
Yeah,
With your kids on both farms. Awful, man. Awful.
yeah. But no, I mean, cults are certainly dangerous. And we go back to what we talked about at the start. What's the difference between a cult and a religion? And religions, in my mind, and from I think what you were going to say, are effectively kind of cults because they're all the same thing. They're all promising something better. They're all promising a heaven, a promised land.
Yeah, but
You know.
arguably, okay. So I've been thinking about this a little bit as the
Mhm.
episode progressed. Like, arguably, with a religion, the figurehead of a religion isn't a, a, a person. Well, want of a better word, it's not somebody who's alive, right? Okay, so
Yeah,
it's a
higher being.
divine, higher in thing, right?
Hmm.
So you can't really kind of sort of like they're not in control really. It's just like, well,
Hmm.
Jesus or God or whoever is there, and you go in, right? Well, I've got to follow these rules because that thing says that I've got to.
Hmm.
It doesn't halfway through go, oh, do you know, like I said that, like, well, now like you've got to do this instead.
Yeah.
Whereas with these cults, there are like actual individuals who are there going, well, yeah, I know I said that 5 years ago, but now I've changed it. So just
Hmm.
drink this juice.
Well, I looked it up. What's the difference between a religion and a cult? And kind of exactly what you're saying. That's part of it. That there isn't this sort of definite leader that you have to follow exactly what they say.
Mm.
Even though the Catholic Church has got the Pope, the Pope's guiding you
It's
using the
guidance. The
Bible.
Pope is there for
Yeah,
guidance, and even
that's it.
even the Pope is flexible. Like you can kind of,
Yeah.
depending on the mood of a society, you can kind of go, well, I think God was trying to say actually is that
Hmm.
rather than no, it's not like set in stone type things. Like what he actually meant,
Absolutely. But the other obvious thing is religions are something that you are free to enter and leave whenever you want. You could go and I could go and become a Catholic tomorrow. And I could walk into church and I'd be welcome. And after 6 months I could say, I'm not doing this anymore, and I could walk back out.
Yeah,
And whereas a religion is a life choice, a cult is a way of life.
yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it.
So yeah, that's that bit.
So welcome to Philosophy Corner. Wow,
I know that's been a really deep episode, hasn't it?
it really has. Yeah, enjoyed it
Um,
though.
I like cults have always fascinated me, and Jonestown's always fascinated me because I'd love to just walk around the place just to see what actually went on. How did he get? Sometimes I actually admire someone that can do something like that to actually get that amount of people believing in every word that you say, and then you think, yeah, but he didn't. He did really shit things with it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
And I think, like you said, it's anything like that sounds good at first until you lose control and it all goes to shit, really, doesn't it?
I would say 10 times out of 10 it goes to shit.
Yeah.
I can't think of a cult that's had a happy ending.
No, no.
So
Some of them become religions in the end, like Scientology and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about Scientology to sort of like even comment on it, but
no, no.
yeah, I can't think of a cult that.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners, feel free to contact us if you know of a cult that's been successful or that's ended happy. I'm sure there's some.
There is a current cult called Nexium,
Do you want to
and it's like
join?
N. No,
And the website is.
certainly not NXIVM, and it's very much about just now. It's got a lot of members, and it's very, very sexually violent. Women get branded, stuff like that. It's a really, really horrible cult by the sounds of it, but it's still going, and I didn't really want to talk much about it in case they turn up at my door. So the scary thing is, these things are still happening all the time.
Yeah,
Still
yeah.
happening.
I mean, I'm sure they sort of crop up like pretty
Mhm.
much weekly, but then it's just some snowball, some just die out. You know,
Yeah,
it's like husband and wife going to start a cult within a week. It's like, oh, I can't be asked with that. But then others go kind of like sort of further down the road. So
yeah.
yeah, there we are then.
I'm going to leave it at that because I could talk about it all night, and I sort of made the decision that I'd always wanted to do an episode on cults, but a lot of the cults are too big to do an episode and go through all the details. And I just thought tonight we'll just have a little chat about them.
A general discussion on cults. Like we said at the
Yeah.
start, it's been only a few days since we did the last one,
Mhm.
so we had to sort of throw it together a little bit. That's not to say you didn't put the effort in. Sorry, that sounded like it.
No, actually, I did. I listened. I listened to quite a few things about them. I did put effort in this week.
Good. Right. Well, I've got like 10 days before I have to even think about mine. So that's good.
We'll need to see. We'll need to look at the football schedule.
Yeah,
for next week.
yeah. That's it.
Because if
Squeeze
there's
it
a
in
good game
somehow.
on, aye,
We could do a watch along or something.
we could do.
Probably won't.
Right. Well, on that note, I appreciate you listening to me, James, and your input has been wonderful.
Thanks for your efforts. I'll see you next time.
See you next time. That's been the Most Dangerous Podcast. Speak to you soon.
Good night.
Cheers.
Good night.
Bye bye.